Hello, ako po si Paterno S. Makel at ito ang Rappler Talk. Singapore ang isa sa mga bansa sa Asia na may pinakamaraming kaso ng COVID-19. Kamustahin natin ang lagay ng mga Pilipino dito kasama ang kinatawan ng Pilipinas, si Ambassador Joseph Yap. Maraming salamat sa pagsama sa amin, Ambassador Yap.
Maraming salamat din, Paterno.
Ambassador Yap, kamusta po yung lagay ng mga Pilipino dito sa Singapore?
Actually, in general naman po, I think ang lagay ng mga Pilipino dito sa Singapore is good, no? Ang mga kababayan naman natin are responding well sa circuit breaker measures ng gobyerno ng Singapore. And nagko-cooperate naman sila, and overall, I think the situation here is under control. As of now, meron tayong 71 na kababayans na affected by COVID. At out of yung 71 na yun, 32 naman ang naka-recover na and have been discharged, and 39 ang nasa hospital pa. So we are in touch naman with them, so through the Ministry of Health ng Singapore. Dahil actually lahat naman ng mga patients in Singapore, once they are hospitalized, isolated po sila. So we are not able to contact them. Pero binigyan naman sila yung mga contact numbers ng embassy. So in case they need anything, tumatawag naman po sila.
Paano po ba nangyari lumobo, Mr. Ambassador, yung bilang ng COVID-19 cases dito sa Singapore? Nung una po mas onte yung bilang, hindi po ba? Para lang po maintindihan ng mga kababayan natin, lalo na sa Pilipinas, paano po nangyari yun?
Yung first wave na yon, actually, Singapore was very efficient. Na-control talaga nila yung first wave. So when it looked like na plateau at na unti-unti nawawala na yung mga kaso, no, new cases. Ang nangyari kasi, nagkaroon ng infection in Europe at the US. So ang ginawa ng Singapore, actually, they allowed yung mga Singaporeans na nakatira in Europe or nag-aaral in Europe and in the US to come home. So ito yung nag-start ng second wave. Dahil nung bumalik yung mga Singaporeans, they were placed under 14 days stay-home notice initially. So, stay home sila. Unfortunately, meron iba dyan hindi sumunod dun sa stay-home notice. So, lumabas sila. And as a result, kumalat yung COVID because some of them were infected. As a result, nagkaroon ng second wave ang Singapore. And what made it worse lang is eventually na-affect yung mga migrant workers dito sa Singapore. There's more than 300 yata to 500,000 migrant workers na galing from, mostly from India at Bangladesh, na they live in yung mga dense ang ano nila, sa dormitoryo sila tumitira. So unfortunately, as a result of that, nag-spread doon sa dormitories. So kaya biglang lumobo yung number of the infected people. So right now, more than 15,000 na po yung mga infected patients dito sa Singapore. The majority of that, more than 85% of that, are yung mga migrant workers nga. Yung mga Indians at Bangladeshi na nakatira sa dormitoryo.
Sa dormitory. Pero meron din po, Mr. Ambassador, na mga Pilipino na nakatira doon sa dormitoryo na naapektuhan o tinamaan ng COVID-19?
Actually, meron din naman, pero paisa-isa lang. We only have very few people. Ang mga Filipinos kasi generally, hindi nagtatrabaho as construction workers or as sanitation workers, yung mga nagko-collect ng garbage, etc. So this work, most of the workers working dito are mga Indians at Bangladeshi. Mm-hmm. So may ilan ng mga kababayan natin who are living in the dormitories, pero very, very few lang. So out of yung 71 cases ngayon, may 5 or 6 siguro nahawa from the dormitories. But very few lang compared to yung ibang nationalities.
5 or 6, nahawa po sila sa mga taga-dormitory o taga-dormitory po sila mismo?
We're not sure dahil ang problema naman sa Singapore government is they do not give all the details of the cases. Meron lang sinasabi that this is part of a cluster. And then this is part of clusters of certain dormitories. So posible nga I know in certain cases it's because let's say sa construction site, may mga construction workers na nakatira sa dormitories who work there. And then meron din tayo mga Filipinos who are mga architects, engineers na nagtatrabaho din at the same site. So posible din nahawa sila while they were working together on a project. So as far as we know lang, they are identified as part of a cluster which are related to mga dormitories.
Ngayon po, Mr. Ambassador, kung ako po ay Pilipino nagkaroon ng COVID-19 sa Singapore, pwede niyo po ba akong gabayan step by step? Ano po yung mga dapat kong gawin?
Actually, if you are diagnosed, by the time you're diagnosed kasi actually maybe we should step back. Before you're diagnosed, let's say you feel unwell, medyo may cough ka or may lagnat, the first step you would do is actually go to yung tinatawag nila GP clinics, no? So maraming there are mga 300 of these clinics all over Singapore. So magpa-check ka doon. These are at subsidized rates, so medyo mura lang yung professional fee to go there. So once you're there, the doctor magde-decide siya on whether bibigyan ka ng COVID test or not. Now, if you're given a COVID test because he thinks baka you've been infected, they will swab you, then they'll send you home. You will wait for the results. Siguro mabilis lang naman yung results. In 1 day, siguro lalabas na yung result. Now, if you're tested positive, ang mangyari is they will send an ambulance to pick you up from your home. So dadalhin ka or they will tell you, but ang alam ko it's by ambulance because they don't want you to take a taxi or a Grab because baka makahawa ka pa ng iba. So they will tell you to, the ambulance will pick you up. Then you'll be brought na to whatever hospital they designate, no? Generally, it's the NCID, the National Center for Infectious Disease nga part of yung Tan Tock Seng area, no, complex. Pero you'll be isolated and then sa totoo lang, nobody will be able to reach you anymore. Isolated ka. Although you're allowed to keep your cell phone. So you're able to call out naman and contact your... so that's why we tell the Ministry of Health to contact us. So if you, as a Filipino OFW, you are diagnosed and then you're brought to the hospital, kung may kailangan ka, just call the hotline of the embassy. So we will be able to assist you whether to check up on your family or whatever, no, kung anong kailangan ninyo. On the good side naman is that everybody who is diagnosed as infected with COVID and is hospitalized in a government hospital, all the bills will be paid by the Singapore government. So as long as you are long-term pass holder, permanent resident, or whatever, lahat yan sagot ng Singapore government. So there's nothing to worry about with regards to your bill. So yun lang. Now, if there's any other assistance that you would need, then please contact the embassy through our emergency hotlines, and then somebody from the embassy will be able to assist you kung ano yung kailangan.
So ito pong Singapore government, yun pong mga inpatient bills, tama po ba?
Yes.
Pero paglabas po nung ospital, yung mga gamot, sagot na po nung pasyente yon, tama po ba?
Yes. Although generally, dapat pag you're discharged, generally, I think there is no more need for medicine. Actually, it takes a while to be discharged kasi ang nangyari, For example, out of yung 15,600 cases ngayon, may 12,725 cases nga tinatawag nila clinically well, meaning wala ng simptomas, but hindi pa dinidischarge because tinetest pa sila for COVID. And then, it's only pag 2 beses na negative yung test, then that's the only time they will be released, no, to the discharge to the community. So normally by that time dapat wala ka ng anything to worry about, dapat wala ka ng medicine na kailangan. So you should be okay already by that time.
May lumapit na po ambassador sa embassy na mga Pilipino na nagka-COVID na nanghingi ng tulong?
Actually, there's only one case po, and that's because it's an exception case that we're helping them with. This one kasi is a short-term pass holder. So actually, along the way, nagbago yung rules ng Singapore na yung mga short-term pass holders, meaning tourists, hindi covered yung bills nila. They changed the rules. Before kasi everybody, they would pay. But then, in March yata sometime, they came out with the rule na pag tourist ka, hindi ka covered by the, you have to pay your own bill. But in this particular case naman, dumating naman tong person prior to yung change in rules. So we are working with the Ministry of Health to seek an exemption in this case dahil dumating naman yung person before they change the rules. So dapat covered din yung bill nila. But we will see. In any case, we're helping them. So we will see. Pero other than that, normally wala na ibang assistance na hinihingi ng mga discharged na patients.
So ito nga po na ito ay hindi pa po nasa-settle yung kaniyang problem sa bill.
May bill siya. May bill nga pre-send sa kanya when she was discharged.
Magkano po kaya?
2,000 plus po.
2,000 plus SGD. Oh, okay. Mga 70,000 pesos.
$2,000 or $3,000 SGD.
Yun naman po, Mr. Ambassador, na mga nawawalan ng trabaho ngayon dito sa Singapore. Ano po yung mga pwedeng ibigay na ayuda ng embassy sa kanila?
Right now kasi the part of the package that was passed, no, yung support package passed in the Philippines, there is a 1.5 billion peso fund yata that has been set aside. This is that, I think the fund is called Akap, no? The Akap fund, I think everybody knows about this Akap fund, where people who are infected or affected by the COVID virus, they will be entitled to get $200 in help. But I just want to point out, unfortunately, there is a limit to this amount, no? So $1.5 billion po ito. So if you divide the $1.5 billion by $200 each, so only a certain number of people will be able to get this amount. So at itong fund na ito is for all OFWs all over the world. So it's not only for Singapore, but all over the world. So right now, we have already paid out more than 500 cases of people na nag-apply po, and we have verified their documents that they have indeed been affected. So ito yung mga nawalan ng trabaho, let's say, or they had their put on forced leave or leave without pay, yung mga ganon. The embassy through the POLO is processing to applications for assistance. So that is the main assistance po that's available right now for this pandemic. Now, on a case-to-case, there are always naman requests for assistance on a case-to-case basis. Yung ATN section po ng embassy will attend to it. So kung may mga requests for assistance, just contact our ATN section. May emergency number naman po that's available, yung hotline. Contact them and we will see what is the assistance that we can render. I have to say, limitado po. I mean, we know naman limitado po ang budget ng government. But there is a fund that we just have to request din from Manila on a case-to-case basis for assistance for yung mga kailangan ng tulong.
So yung ATN nationals fund, tama po ba?
Yes. Yung ATN is assistance to national. So yung mga all Filipinos po, lahat ng kababayan natin, can contact our section on ATN and then tutulungan po sila.
Meron po bang mga misconceptions na gusto niyo pong iklaro sa ating mga kababayan tungkol sa paghingi po ng tulong sa embassy o tungkol po dito sa crisis na ito? Ano po yung mga usually tinatawag po sa embassy na tingin nyo dapat po nating maklarify once and for all?
Oh, okay. Yun lang. I think the first thing kailangan i-emphasize is, of course, hindi naman unlimited po ang budget ng gobyerno, no? So everything has a budget, may limit po in terms of how much assistance can be given. But within po that limit, we can assure you we will do our utmost to assist you. So kung let's say mawalan ka ng trabaho or something like that, the government unfortunately will not be able to replace your salary or anything like that. Ang kailangan lang, ang magagawa lang ng embassy is to look at your situation on a case-to-case basis. Tingnan natin ano yung the priority that we need to do for you and then we can see kung ano yung assistance nga ma-provide ng embassy and then even also what we can ask from the national government. So, and then if we ask syempre we have to also be patient when we ask from the national government. Minsan, it takes also a few days or a week or two to get the response. Dahil marami din naman ibang requests coming from all over the world. So it's not only from Singapore, kundi all over the world. Lahat ng posts natin are also being faced by the same problema. No? Marami din nawawala ng trabaho elsewhere. In Singapore na nga, the government has come out with various packages para maiwasan nga yung firing of people. No? They would like as much as possible na ma-retain yung workforce. But whatever we can do, we will do our utmost what's possible. Now, one thing that we've assisted din lately, may dalawang flights that we work on is itong mga repatriation flights. Now, we have to emphasize, hindi po itong dalawang flights na ito, hindi po sponsored by the Philippine government. These were flights that Philippine Airlines was coming na rin, and then they were able to work out an arrangement to fly out certain passengers, no? So in total, may mga 300 plus passengers that were able to be repatriated. Pero itong mga repatriation na ito, majority of them were paid by their employers. So most of the contracts naman dito are may obligasyon ang employer to repatriate yung workers when they are no longer needed, no? So ang nangyari nito, these two majority of the people in these flights, mga workers doon sa aviation industry here in Singapore. So mga contractors, subcontractors ng Singapore Airlines, for example, yung maintenance of their airplanes, etc. So itong mga workers na ito, obviously at this point in time, dahil grounded lahat ng aeroplano ng Singapore, they're not flying, there's no need for them at this point in time. So they're on natawag na no pay leave of absence, no? Binigyan sila ng 3 months no pay leave. But empleyado pa rin sila. So hindi sila terminate. Now, the repatriation was also paid for by their companies. And then once mag-resume uli ang Singapore Airlines, then they will be recalled. So i-recall sila, they will be flown back again at the expense of the companies para ma-resume yung trabaho nila dito. So that's what we have done so far. Meron naman pa isa-isang yung mga talagang kailangan ng repatriation, no? We have assisted naman because they were stranded here. One was a victim of illegal recruitment, so we send them back. And then there's one case we're working on a pregnant kababayan naman natin that we are sending home also to assist her. So, as I said, on a case-to-case basis, we can work to get assistance to repatriate people. But in general, there is still pa naman commercial flights going back, no? Although mahal lang nga, Singapore Airlines is still flying twice a week yata to Manila. So for those who really feel nga nawala na sila ng trabaho and maybe it's better to go home, makakauwi pa rin naman sila. It's just that medyo mahal lang yung plane fare ngayon. So we're awaiting naman may talk that Jetstar will be resuming their flights, and then Philippine Airlines is also looking at resuming their flights. So hopefully by that time there will be more flights available, more seats available. So baka hindi na ganyan kamahal yung mga plane tickets.
May mga naririnig na rin po ba kayo, Mr. Ambassador, na mga Pilipino na lay-off sa trabaho ng sa palagay nila illegal na paraan o yung bigla-bigla na lang kinancel yung kanilang mga employment contract? May mga tumatawag na po ba sa embassy tungkol dyan? At ano po yung pwede po nilang gawin kung nangyari po sa kanila yon?
Actually, I think may paisa-isang reports that we are getting through our embassy. Pero I would think we should be able to complain to the Ministry of Manpower kung they believe that what they have experienced is illegal. We can complain naman. We can assist also in following up with the Ministry of Manpower. Kung may kaso ng ganyan, if they feel that they have been unfairly treated and it's illegal, the embassy will be willing to assist naman. We can also reach out to the Ministry of Manpower and find out. Kasi sa totoo lang, as I said, the Singapore government has actually come out with a big support package, no, for their business. And part of that package is to try to maintain yung employment. Of course, we know hindi naman pwede ma-retain yung 100% of the workforce. But if the company avails of subsidies from the government, they should not naman also terminate their employees, no? Because yung ang package nun they will be supported by the government, but they should also keep their employees. Kasi in certain cases, yung government nga magbabayad ng up to 75% of the salary. May subsidy ng ganon Although it's being given to the employer, but the idea is i-retain yung employee o empleyado para that's why it is getting 75% of the salary. Plus yung iba, wini-waive nga yung foreign worker levy for the next 2 months. I think for the last 2 months. And then may rebate pa. So ibig sabihin nun, you're getting a rebate so that you keep your foreign employee. Hindi naman ita-terminate mo rin and then you will also get a rebate. So if there are cases like that, please reach out to the embassy and we will study it and we will see what we can do to help you with the Ministry of Manpower.
Mr. Ambassador, balik naman po sa mga Pilipino nang galing sa Singapore. Ano po ba, kailangan po ba ng lahat sumailalim sa quarantine, mapa overseas Filipino worker man o estudyante o permanent resident? Ano po ba yung mga SOP na dapat tandaan ng mga Pilipino na manggagaling dito sa Singapore?
You're talking about pag-uwi nila or
Pag-uwi,
pagbalik nila sa Singapore?
pag-uwi po sa Pilipinas.
Pag-uwi sa Pilipinas, kailangan mag-undergo ng 14-day quarantine. As of now, ang ano yata is pag OFW ka, and especially kung umuwi ka in a batch, katulad ng yung dalawang flights that we said were organized over the last 2 weeks, lahat sila quarantine in a facility. So meron in one case dinala sa isang resort in Batangas, and in the other flight yata they were quarantined in some hotels in Metro Manila. So group quarantine, yun tinatawag nila facility quarantine. But if you are, kung turista ka or estudyante, I think you're allowed to quarantine at home. So pwede mag-quarantine sa bahay mo for 14 days.
Yung pong mga naka-group quarantine, yung mga dinala sa Batangas, regardless of saan sila nakatira yon. Kahit taga Maynila ka, pwede kang dalhin sa Batangas, basta yun ang naka-designate na location mo. Tama po ba?
Yes, yes. This is designated po by DOH tsaka yung Bureau of Quarantine. So sila nagde-decide noon kung saan i-quarantine. Kung depende din sa kung ano yung available facility siguro.
Bago po mag-wrap up, Mr. Ambassador, meron na rin po bang mga Pilipino na nahuhuli na nagpa-violate ng safe distancing measures? Ang alam po natin yung Jollibee po na fine po sila, hindi po ba nabigyan ng penalty? Bukod po dun sa Jollibee, meron pa po bang mga Pilipino na nabigyan ng penalty dahil po sa safe distancing?
Actually po, sir, as of now, wala naman tayong masyadong maraming nare-receive. In fact, as far as I know, wala tayong na-receive na feedback that there were any such things. No? At least nothing serious. Kung na-fine man, there will be a fine, $300 fine. But there have not been any reports, let's say, from the police of anybody apprehended or anything like that for that. Normally naman, kung may arrest, sumusulat naman sa embassy ang SPF to let us know. So in our case, wala pa naman tayong natanggap ng anything like that. But of course, I still encourage and urge lahat ng ating mga kababayan to continue to strictly follow yung mga circuit breaker measures ng Singapore. I think parang it seems to be working naman. The number of cases, especially sa community, is going down. So I think let us all cooperate and continue to cooperate and work together with all Singaporean residents para ma-resolve as soon as possible tong sitwasyon dito sa Singapore.
Para sa kaalaman ng mga kababayan natin sa Pilipinas, dito sa Singapore, maraming mga bawal sa ilalim ng circuit breaker measures. Halimbawa dyan yung pagsuot ng mask. Kapag hindi ka nagsuot ng mask sa labas ng bahay, ang parusa ay $300 Singapore dollars na sa first offense. Tama po ba, Mr. Ambassador?
Yes, that's correct. Tsaka the worst part is if they want to be very strict kasi minsan pag talagang they feel nga talagang you're not following their posible pa ma-affect yung work permit mo yung work pass mo. If they decide, they can easily cancel it just because you're not following yung mga measures nila on safe distancing or mask or you're only allowed to go out pag essential work or essential chores. And then kailangan umuwi ka agad, hindi ka pwede kung saan dadaan ka pa somewhere else, no? So yung mga ganon. So they've been very strict. Yung iba nga kinulong na nila. There's 1 or 2 Singaporeans na kinulong na or breaking the rules in terms of sinabi nga dapat umuwi sila for their stay home notice. Hindi siya umuwi ka agad. Lumabas pa siya, nag-shopping pa siya bago siya umuwi. So he's been sent to jail for, I don't know, 2 weeks ba or something.
Yung kumain ng
So,
bakod din.
yes, yung kumain sa restaurant sa Bakod Day just because before he went on lockdown. So yun, they're very strict. And then meron pa ibang kaso dyan that's pending. So meron nga yung isa, this one is very, very strict talaga. Yung isa, he has a case in court dahil lumabas siya 30 minutes before the expiration of his stay home notice. Stay home notice 14 days. So after 11 days and 23 and a half hours, lumabas na siya. So hinuli siya ng police. So he's now also facing a case. So they're very serious about it. So to mga kababayan natin dito sa Singapore, let us continue to cooperate para ma-resolve na kaagad tong sitwasyon dito sa Singapore.
Kapag po ba may Pilipino na pipilihan na lumalabag sa safe distancing measure, makakatulong din po ba yung embassy sa kanila sa kahit anong paraan?
Unfortunately, the only thing is, pag kinulong ka na, then the only thing that we can do is try to, we can assist naman actually in all those places where there are cases, no? So what we do is actually we can assist in getting legal assistance. So kung kailangan ng attorney, we can work through the ATN to get a lawyer for them kung yun ang gusto nila. In many cases, people will just plead guilty na lang para wala nang gulo. Dahil if you fight it out pa and then you lose, baka mas malaki pa yung parusa. No? But every time there's a case involving mga kababayan natin, we are ready naman to help them in terms of finding a lawyer. In many cases, pwedeng pro bono yung lawyers. So we have lawyers that we work with. And then, so we're ready naman to help. But as I said, mas mabuti kung wag ka na lang lumabag ng batas nila or regulation para there is no need for all of this additional process pa.
Habol na tanong na lang, Ambassador. Nakapabalita ngayon na sinasabi ng Singapore na dadami yung mga mawawalan ng trabaho o bababa yung sweldo dahil po dito sa COVID-19. Gaano po kahanda yung Philippine Embassy na harapin yung problemang ito lalo na dahil marami po tayong mga workers dito sa Singapore?
I think unfortunately it is true. Even after itong pandemic is over, yung economic consequence siguro was going to be much more, no? So more likely than not, marami talagang ng employees will be affected. So many will lose their jobs. No? I think there's some number that was mentioned by Singapore already, the government. But I know the Singapore government has rolled out 3 budgets nga, totaling 3 supplementary budgets totaling 60 billion Singapore dollars that they are using to reduce yung negative effects nito. So to mitigate. So while there will be people who will lose their jobs, hopefully because of the 60 billion dollars that the Singapore government will be putting into the economy, the impact will be much less than what would otherwise be the case. Now, if there are our kababayans are affected by cases like this of layoffs and so on, again, as I said, they can reach out to the embassy. Again, unfortunately, the embassy naman, the Philippine government is not in a position to replace your salary if you lose your job. What we can do is just render assistance while you are looking for another job, or if you decide to go home to the Philippines. Of course, yung mga there is assistance naman kung miyembro pa kayo ng SSS. There is assistance from the SSS in terms of yung unemployment insurance, which I think you get 2 months equivalent. And then kung miyembro po kayo ng OWA also has an assistance when you return if you're a displaced worker and you go back to the Philippines, may support package din po sila. I think you can borrow 20,000-25,000 pesos to do some business or something like that. So meron din naman yung mga packages like that through the Philippine government.
Huling tanong ko na po, Mr. Ambassador, bilang ama po ng Filipino community dito sa Singapore, ano po yung mensahe na pinakagusto niyong iparating sa mga Pilipino dito?
I think the most important message lang is let us continue to observe the measures strictly, yung circuit breaker measures. Let us continue to keep ourselves safe. Yun ang pinaka-importante. I think if you do not need to go out, don't go out. If you go out, go only for yung mga essential things to do. Always wear your mask and keep yourself safe. Keep the social distancing. I think if you do that, then you will avoid catching the virus from the general community. Although it's going down now, hopefully in another 1 or 2 weeks, yung mga community cases will actually be down to single digits if it's not already, no? So it is good to talagang remain safe because not only for yourself, but pati yung mga relatives ninyo, if you're staying with people who are elderly, they are also very vulnerable. And then also to the general community. So I think let us all cooperate. And then, as I always say, if you need assistance, please reach out to us. We are there. We will be happy to assist you in the best way that we can, in all as far as we can do whatever we can do, given the limited budget that the government has, no? But we will do our very best to do everything that we can for you. Maraming salamat.
Nakasama natin si Ambassador Joseph Yap. Ako po si Paterno S. Makel. Maraming salamat sa inyong panonood.